we acknowledge the first Australians as the traditional custodians of the continent, whose culture is the oldest living culture in human history. We pay our respects to elders, past, present and emerging, and we respect their cultural heritage, beliefs and relationship with the land. We extend our respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. They share the memories, traditions and hopes of the traditional ancestors with the new generations today and in the future. We would also like to thank them for looking after this land for thousands of years.
Shall we do two things today broadly? We'll talk about the teaching and learning component, which I know that you're keen to talk about.
I am.
And we'll have a look at some of the bits and pieces that are in the kit. Can I get an indication from people who actually has the kit? Can you just put a little comment like me in the chat? Who has got the kit? Because I know if there's a reasonable amount of you, I might talk about some critical things like before the school holidays, you must, those kind of things, because I believe with this kit, you can all be very successful growing. Your students can be successful, which is one of the reasons we've chosen this technology. And we do need to address the school holidays coming up. Do you start planting before the school holidays? Do you begin to grow before the school holidays? We will talk about those things.
And don't be scared if you don't have one, because this is going to be recorded. So when you get yours in 2 terms time, then you'll be able to come back to it.
All right. So look, the STEM T4L program, if you haven't met us before and you're not quite sure who we are, we loan out technologies and equipment to schools so that they can try it, give it a go, see if it fits in with their teaching and learning strategies. And then if they decide that they want to purchase it for themselves, great, or just keep coming back to us. And so the Aeroponics Kit was one way to help schools address scientific investigation skills. We were really keen on helping students investigate living world, investigate the needs of living things, and of course the curriculum mentions in lots of different places the needs of living things in a managed environment. And that's the key phrase that pops up in living world, is asking students, what do living things need in a managed environment? This is, of course, a very managed environment. This is the tower that you'll end up using. When it arrives at your school, it arrives in 4 cases. One of them is an electronics component case. And so we're going to have a look at some of the electronics components.
Yep.
One of them is the garden accessories case, and then we'll have a look at some garden accessories. And of course, 2 of them are the grow towers. You can't miss the grow towers because they are
coming in a bag, and they come with these 2 lists of things that are in each of the containers.
I love our custom shipping container, it's bright fluorescent pink. I super love it. So that's what the grow towers comes in. So let's have a look at a couple of the items, particularly because if they've arrived at school now, you need to get seeds. That's your first action that you need to do. Normally we provide everything, Sandy.
Yeah.
And we work really hard as a project to giving schools everything they need in the box. But this time we realized we couldn't give the same seeds to everybody because New South Wales schools are so scattered across different climate zones. We've got some schools that are very dry and very hot, and other schools that are in very wet conditions.
Could I just add, even on the Learning Library, on the homepage of the Aeroponics Kit, there is in fact a grid that allows you to sort of analyse where you are in the state and what are the most appropriate seeds for you to go and buy.
So that's really critical. So your first task, if you've got the kit, go to Bunnings, go to, I don't know, whatever your local nursery is, go and buy some seeds. There's just packets like this. You probably need about 5 seeds per pod, okay? There are 30 plants that you can grow at once, and this thing can grow about 150 different types of plants. Basically, if it's not a tree and it grows above ground, you can pretty much grow it, okay? So go and get your seeds, and then get your germination trays out of the garden accessories case. Now, the garden accessories case is a big black one. It's the Pelican case that we normally have. So for those of you who have had kits from us before, you'll recognize the black Pelican cases. So these are your germination trays, and you'll pop your seeds into the coconut
growing pods.
Yeah, so this little bit of coconut squashed fiber is not dirt. There is no dirt in this system, and it's important you don't put dirt in the system because else the pump will get clogged up. So drop these in here. Do a better job than I just did. You know, follow the instructions on the Air Garden YouTube channel. It takes about 2 to 3 weeks to germinate the seeds so they are ready to transfer. And this is why it's so important before school holidays.
That was my question. So they definitely do that before school holidays so that they've got a chance to grow over school holidays.
Yeah, and what you'll notice, so if you do this like now or next week, and then the kids will go, yeah, this is great. So they'll transfer them across into the tower, like the last day of school. Because the tower has got 85 litres of water, that is plenty of water for the tower to run by itself for 2 weeks. You do not have to look at it for 2 weeks, right?
Can you imagine the anticipation of the kids when they come back to school?
And the amount of growth that takes place over those 2 weeks, the kids are going to get super excited. So get your germination stuff done, get your seeds planted before the school holidays using that coconut core. And this stuff, incidentally, is a consumable, obviously. Like once the plant's grown, you won't have any more of these. If you need more, and Joe, if you can put this link in the chat, if you need more of the consumables, use the link t4l.link/STEM help, right? So that means you can order more coconut core, you can order more fertilizer. Okay, so that's the link that you need for that. So that's the gardening accessories case. You'll also find these little pods. So this is where you'll transfer your seedlings into, and then that plugs into the grow tower.
And then what do you do with your coconut thingies?
Oh, you can know those coconut, the roots will very firmly have taken up those coconut thingies.
Excellent.
Yeah, that which is
So
why
they're taken care of.
They are absolutely taken care of. Now, your tower will run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but please use the timer. So this timer, you'll have the pump plugged into this. Now, that if you run it, say on the timer, you set it to start maybe at 7 a.m., set the timer to stop at like 9 p.m. And during that day time, 7 to 9, have it 15 minutes on, 15 minutes off, okay? So even though the power on the wall is turned on 24 hours, the timer will actually manage when the pump is on and off, okay? That timer is, of course, in the electronics accessories case, okay? So that's the timer that's going to help you manage it. Yeah, all right. What else have I got here? I will actually show you how the tower kind of circulates all the water, because that's the beauty of aeroponics, is that the water circulates and it becomes very efficient. But if you don't put fertilizer in the water, your plants are going to look very, very pale and sickly.
And can I just point out something? I have been working through a number of the learning challenges that have been developed by some of our leaders and some fantastic educators who have been using the Aeroponics Kit. And a lot of them are actually keeping a thought of, because you get 2 Aeroponics kits, they're using one as almost a control group to make the point around the nutrients and things. Particularly, one of the learning challenges is a high-end agricultural study of stage 4. And there's a really clear doing a comparison and looking at the different nutrients that we're putting in and the impacts of those. So the thing that I love is that kindy kids can get in here, they can grow, they can investigate, they can be checking things out with their microscope and they're, you know, looking at bugs and all sorts of things. but it really has an application for high-end students who are doing senior studies. And some of those learning challenges are a bit tricky for me to get through because I'm primary trained. So, I'm sitting there working out all of those scientific concepts because there's bucket loads.
When Tanya was writing hers, I think she was writing it for like stage 6 or something. I'm going, oh, Tanya, that hurts my head. So
those clever physics chem teachers out there and ag teachers, you can get hold of this as well. And if you are at a secondary school, you've got a connection with a secondary school, I know this looks like it would absolutely, I would love it in my primary classroom, but it's also got a really strong application in secondary.
Absolutely. The chemicals here that you see in front of me, they are safe to be handled by all of our students, okay? Young and old, teachers as well. We did go through the chemical safety thing in school.
Yeah, we had to.
We went through all that process.
You did, actually, let's be honest. You went through all the nitty-gritty, some of the yucky jobs you have to do to get a kit out there. So,
and we actually had to replace the chemicals. So these pH testing chemicals that were originally in the product, we had to work with the vendor to replace them because the original chemicals were totally unsuitable. And I do want to stress, I really do want to stress, if the chemicals arrive at your school and they don't look like the bottles that we have either in this video or in our video on YouTube, if they don't look like this, please contact us immediately if you have any questions about chemical safety in schools and the kinds of chemicals we're sending to your school. Please contact us. But these chemicals are very safe. I did ask the question, what happens if somebody swallows these chemicals? They're
going to be sick?
No, their poo will turn a funny colour.
I don't expect that you will go and check that out as it happens. Let's just take that one.
But that's the worst. That's the worst of it. So look, the nutrients, I found it really interesting actually, because most of us, if we're planting seeds in soil, we don't really think about nutrients a great deal. But of course, rainwater, for example, doesn't have the nutrients. So this is a great conversation point around what do plants need to grow? Like how many of our young people can actually articulate, well, they need this, 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 and this, and this, how many of them actually know? So this is a great way to help young people think about what our plants and our food, when our food needs to grow.
And just throwing into that, Lawrence, one of the connections that's been made on the homepage of the Learning Library is a connection to the UN sustainability goals. And there are a couple that really stand out. And if anyone is doing some HISI subjects and looking at different elements of that, this kit sits so well and addresses many of those. And it would be a great activity to actually get students to see where they see that the connection could happen between the Aeroponics Kit and Zero Hunger, the Aeroponics Kit with good health and well-being, sustainable cities, all of those elements. And just there is actually on the digital learning selector, there's a hexagon activity that people would do. Be a great activity to connect the UN goals with what the kids are learning as they're going through and analysing and growing and seeing sort of the difference. And I suppose the point of this is, and the point for the teachers who are out there, why did you borrow this kit? Because it's very easy to go down to Bunnings and just get some pots and grow stuff in a pot. That's a really, really easy thing to do. So it's almost the point of difference of this. And yes, it comes with the microbit, and so you can analyse different things. Yes, it comes with the camera so that you can take photos of what you can see through the microscope that you're looking at. But there are differences here. And I think that's the point with the students looking at, why do we have to do things different? And why are things changing? Why are these inventions being successful and being taken on around the world?
And that's the question that I was thinking about during Science Week, 2 years ago now, I think it was, that when I first came across this, I was very interested in these questions that you're asking, Sandy. And that's kind of what led me to discover this product called the Air Garden. And it led me to think about, our young people really need to do life very differently than what our generation has. you know, our generation has created a lot of problems when it comes to our food systems, when it comes to health and nutrition availability to different populations.
Yep.
Our young people need to do things differently. The UN goals spell all those things out so beautifully.
Yep.
So I think it's a really good call out. And we have, of course, linked this page
from the homepage
Yes.
of the Learning Library, which you are looking at again. So if you go to the Learning Library, you'll find the Aeroponics page now has its own section and resources in there.
Joe, have you popped the Aeroponics Kit page into the chat? Thank you very much. Please go there, because if there is a key resource, then that's the first place we will put it.
Yeah.
The UN page is linked just here.
Yep.
So we can see that here. That's the UN page that we were just talking about.
If you do a refresh, I think it might have just, yeah, we've actually put the link into all the pages as well. Might just be a bit slow uploading.
Quite possibly.
Anyway. Yep.
All right.
Yep.
There
it is.
So you get that. There's the 17 goals.
Yep.
So that page is going to be a really great spot for you guys to get resources. We were talking about seeds before. This is what Sandy was talking about.
Yep.
And I did have to, of course, put the heading seeds not included, because we want you to go and get your own. Do go and have a look at that, what climate zones you're in, so you can buy the correct seeds and get started. From a support perspective, the people that have created this product, it's a Queensland-based company. Their YouTube channel is full of how-tos and tips and tricks. So we're not going to make any about, like, you know, I think I've done one maybe how-to video.
Actually, there's a couple of sensational ones that have been done by yourself and some of the STEM leaders, and I'm going to talk about those at the very end. So yeah.
But in terms of like, how do you plant your seeds? How do you transfer your seedlings across? All of those things about the air garden, you can find them on the Air Garden YouTube channel. And I would recommend, if you've got students who are a little bit independent and a little bit responsible, get your kids to go and learn that. Just say to them, next week we need to transfer our seedlings from the germination tray into the tower. How do we do that? You kids go and watch the video and then you can explain it to me.
So there could be different stages. Different groups have different responsibilities around the process and the production and things. And then kids are active. They're not sitting just watching you do things. So, and they have a responsibility to learn how to learn.
Yeah, and that's critical. And I always say, get kids to take responsibility, get kids to be the ones who are getting the kit out, unpacking things, so that they're taking charge of their own learning. Even when it comes to testing the pH level of the water. And of course, you have to do that because if the pH is wrong, the plants don't absorb the nutrients. And that would be interesting. How would you explain? Actually, Joe, can you ask folks to what is the youngest, like, is there like a kindy class?
That's a really good question. We've got some people who are looking at it from right up in grade 12.
Yes.
So people are looking at it from there. We've got some primary schools as well at K to 12, Wheelack Street SSP.
Wonderful.
Parramatta North.
Yep.
Grafton Public School.
Yep.
Yeah, if you've got a year 1 class or a year 2 class, I would love to kind of be a fly on the wall to hear, how do we explain what pH balancing is? I like to say, you know, sometimes plants like to have water that's a little bit sweet, or water that's a little bit bitter, or water that's a little bit tangy. And if they have just the right water, it's like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. That's how I would explain it. So you want to make sure the plants have got just the right type of water so they can absorb the nutrients, and then you're going to get some really great results. So that's your pH testing kit. Again, videos on how to do this step by step are on the Air Garden YouTube channel.
Can I also suggest that one of the learning challenges that we've just published actually has a section in there where you in fact get students to develop their own glossary, because there are new terms.
Yeah.
And if they're working in groups, having a shared understanding of what those terms mean is really important for them.
That's a good idea.
And for them to actually define them. And then you got to challenge them to, could you explain it to someone who is 7?
Yeah.
That's my other challenge. So simplify it down. And could you write it for the web in 2 sentences?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Different ways to explain it.
I love the idea of building your own glossary, building your own meta language around how all this works, because there's nothing worse than a teacher going, can you go and grab that thing, right? Or go and get that thing that does the other thing.
I did call it a thingy, didn't I?
Did you? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if
we
you
need a thingy. We have a shared
thingy.
knowledge understanding.
Yep. All right. So
Now, we had some interesting questions, if I can pop them to you.
yes, Joe's going to fire off some questions to us. Go for it, Joe.
One of them coming from Latika, is she was wondering if there's time to be able to plant the seeds without putting any nutrients in them, for the students to see that you do need to add nutrients to make them grow.
Short answer is yes, there is time. The growth cycles in aeroponics are very fast. Okay, so you've got this kit until the end of term 2.
2 kids.
Yeah, sorry, you've got 2 towers,
Yep.
remember? I've only got 1 tower set up here. You have 2 towers.
Yep.
You could, but you've got to get those seedlings in, like get them in tomorrow. Start planting. Because if you want to let it sit for like 2 weeks with no nutrients, and take photographs, right? Because as soon as you're comparing, you want to begin to record the data. So take photographs, make sure you're standing at the same point when you're taking the photographs so that, you know, equal comparisons.
Yep.
And as soon as you put nutrients in, the plants will grow faster, the leaves will be greener, all those sorts of things. So you do have time, but you need to get started straight away.
And you have a mobile phone. You have 2 mobile phones in the kit, which you can in fact
It's
use.
10.
10, sorry. 10
Yes.
mobile phones in the kit. Get your students to be taking those photos and see if they can create a timeline showing the changes that occur with their cameras and their photos. So they're taking responsibility for capturing that growth.
Yeah. Speaking of the phones, so in the kit, we've included the 10 phones and the 10 digital microscopes.
Yep.
Because we think this is a great opportunity for students to investigate, you know, the micro world, the smaller world, investigate the plant structures, investigate what's happening with plants, the roots. Because of this system, there's no dirt. You can pull the plant out every single week and have a look at the root structure.
And measure them. And
measure the
capture your
roots.
data. I can see graphs. I can see, actually STEM 2-year-old Kids has a magazine about gathering all your data. So
Right.
And Joe's going to throw the link to that in there. No, not putting you under any pressure at all, Joe. Let's keep going.
Thank you everyone for responding to that poll.
Yeah.
We can see that there is a really nice spread
Yeah.
across different classes. So that's great. Stage 3 is looking to be the most represented, but otherwise there is a really nice spread. So
Yes.
I'm really keen. Stage 1, if you're doing this with stage 1, please share with us the kinds of
Cool, Lawrence.
conversations. Totally.
I'm actually really keen to see what stage 4 and 5 are doing
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. Oh, look, stage 5,
Yep.
the same. Show us what it looks like when you're teaching aeroponics or teaching, you know, the needs of living things in a managed environment and all the associated ideas.
Now, tell me about this little doobie wacker,
Oh,
please.
okay. So many of you will have seen the microbit. Thank you. I'm going.
I was the one that threw that with the doobie wacker, but yeah. Okay.
So in the kit, in the electronics accessories case, we've included 4 microbits. So there's 2 microbits per tower.
There is a charging cable.
Yes, there
times
is.
4. There is a battery case times 4, and there are batteries.
Correct. And the idea behind this is for those of you who want to do some environmental data collection.
Yep.
Because, you know, when we're talking about plants and the needs of living things, we want to be able to also talk about the climate that they are growing in. How much light are they getting? And the microbit, you can use the sensors on the microbit to collect all that data.
Yes.
And then you can map, you know, over time as the plants grow, how much light have they had?
Yeah.
And the reason we've done 2 microbits and the battery pack is with just a little bit of code, you can actually have 1 microbit sitting by the tower somewhere using the radio signal, sending the data back to a microbit that's plugged into a laptop or something. and remotely collect that environmental data.
Yep.
So I'm really keen to see what that looks like. And then
Great to get actually kids to see if they could draw how they believe that works as a concept.
right.
So particularly young kids, but even older kids, with actually looking at how is that data transferred, how is that data requested, all of those
Right.
transition of data things is really relevant to, you know, sort of that it doesn't just happen by magic. Little kids may say, oh, it's all magical.
Yeah.
But as
yeah.
kids develop and the conversations happen and they learn more, they're going to be able to articulate that in a scientific way.
So whichever way you choose to kind of pursue the Aeroponics Kit, whether you're using magnifying glasses and taking photographs of root structures and measuring root structures, or you're collecting environmental data about the environment the plants are growing in, lots of scientific investigation options, I think, for you.
On that camera option, we had an interesting question come up.
Yep.
Sandy,
Question
about,
from Joe, yes.
Yeah, about using time lapse.
Lovely.
So a good option, maybe using their phone that can supply. Would that be a good option?
I haven't tried the time lapse thing, but I would absolutely give those things a go. If you want to create a time lapse, like a video or a sequence, you've got to have a tripod, really, and you've got to photograph it in exactly the same location.
I'm just thinking, how well can you do your tripod with your elbows?
Yeah.
Use a book. Use an old. If you're a librarian, your librarian's got a book holder.
Yeah.
Sometimes they work.
Or a recipe holder.
Because the concept of the time lapse is you want people to see in a compressed form the dramatic changes.
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, like this webpage has got a time lapse on it, right? So that animation is what they've created that. So you could create a similar time lapse snapshot of what you're growing.
Do you know what else? What I think you could use time lapse for is actually the process of setting up and the process of
Yes.
transferring the plugs and things like that, because that's one of those things that happens within a confined period of time.
Yeah.
In that you could set your camera and leave it, and you could watch the students who were doing things, and then they could do an explanation of what they were doing and why.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the concept of a managed environment is all about the skills that the students are demonstrating to making sure that they are doing what's required for living things to thrive. And that's the same whether it's a farm, whether it's an aeroponics, or hydroponics or aquaponics, creating healthy food for a growing population.
Can I just take that idea, and I just want to very quickly talk about a couple of the videos that are in fact there. And yes, there are some that were created by the Air Garden people, but the videos that are highlighted here, there's a couple that I really want to just focus on. And if I was starting off, and like I said, I'm not experienced in this, so I'm going to it with fresh eyes. There are a couple of big hints. The first one that I would look at is actually off the screen, which is Lawrence's, which is there, that is literally about setting up the kit. And it's not just setting up the kit like they do at Air Garden, because that's a commercial product and we've got different chemicals, we've got all sorts of different things. But I would pick that up and I would work through that. That would be the first thing I would do.
Yes.
The second thing I would do, and if I'm getting my head around, and I always like to work around the TPAC model, which is, technology, curriculum content, and the pedagogy. If I'm thinking around the technology, the next one that I would go to is I'd have a look at the digital microscopes video that is there, that talks about how it works and what you can do with it.
How good is that?
It's really good.
Yeah.
The other one that I would do is I would then have a look at the collecting data, and that is looking at the microbit and make code and how that is used. Now, in that whole world, that's looking at the technology and how it's all set up. The other thing that I would look at is I would look at the learning challenges as well, but I'd really focus in on episode 2, which is the teaching with aeroponics. And Megan Anderson, we're very lucky to have on board with us, has done a fantastic video, and she really unpacks sort of in general ways, like she's not talking hardcore, learning outcome 4.3, she's talking general stuff around the sorts of applications that she has seen working and trialing the Aeroponics Kit. She talks through things like to start with a focus on your curriculum area. So do you want to use it as a maths data thing? Do you actually want to use it as a general application? Are you applying it to the agricultural sort of area up in stage 4? So have a focus and an eye on that. The other thing that she talks about is she talks through the tips and tricks of just introducing it to your students and getting them involved. She also talks about the general applications of the microbits and the microscopes and how she uses them. But one of the things that I really loved is she also talked about a bigger thing, and that was about being an entrepreneur and being entrepreneurial. So looking at why wouldn't you connect with your local community? And she talked about authentic needs as well, and an authentic audience. And it is about, rather than we just grew some plants and that was terrific and we learnt some bits and pieces, it's about taking that knowledge and sharing it. So a couple of the ideas were looking at this whole career idea of plate to, you know, table, farm to table sort of idea, and inviting people in to share a meal with the community. Another idea was, in fact, connecting to the local community. And if you're in rural, regional New South Wales, there's a fair chance you're going to have a regional show on. Why not enter the stuff that you have produced in that show? And whilst you're entering that show, is have the background of the stuff that you created and all of the knowledge that your students have built. So it doesn't just become a lettuce or a dozen, strawberries or something. It actually becomes a lesson and a community lesson for everyone that's there. So I think that's a really great way to do that. And if you are in the city, go wild as well, because take it to your local council, take it to areas that you think would really benefit from it. And it's about authentic purpose, authentic audience, and your children sharing what they know. I'm going to stop talking.
When I had this at home and I was growing food in the aeroponic system, I swear I grew the most gigantic zucchinis you have ever seen in your life.
We didn't see them. He's just telling us about
I had
them.
so many zucchinis. It was like I got to a point of, I don't even know what to do with these anymore. And Sandy, it comes back to your point about having an authentic audience.
Yep.
What are you going to do with the food that you grow?
Yep.
You know, are you just going to compost it at the end?
Don't you dare.
I know, but that's what I did when I grew my, had too much. I wasn't planned or prepared for the amount of produce that I grew. So what are you going to do? Are you going to eat it? Are you going to compost it? Are you going to sell it? Are you going to give it away? You need to plan now for how the food is going to be used, because that adds the authentic element.
And take photos of it though, because Lawrence didn't share those photos, so we don't really know if he actually cooked those or grew those gigantic.
I would dig out some photos. And I'm happy for any of you to come either onto our Yammer community or Facebook group,
share them
and say, Lawrence, show us those photos of those zucchinis and I'll dig them up.
Can I also suggest if people could post theirs, we could almost have a statewide share your produce.
Okay, what we're doing is huge, Sandy, because we have got 100 of these towers.
Yep.
100 of them. That means 3,000 plants are going to be grown by the students of New South Wales between now and the end of term 2. 3,000 plants in 100 square meters. I mean, that's mind-blowing. For me, this is why I love this, right? The sustainability approach for me is gigantic. So yes, I actually want to have 3,000 photographs of the 3,000 plants.
I do too.
All right, on that kit page, there is also some individual lesson content.
Thanks, Leonie. We're putting in our recipe request.
On the kit page, you'll also see some individual lessons. You can click on these things here and it will take you to a Google site with individual lessons, lots of wonderful resources. I'm not going to click in there now.
Yeah, all mapped to the New South Wales
syllabus. All mapped to the New South Wales syllabus. Yeah. We had such a wonderful time working with the people at Air Garden on this. They are so keen to support young people in understanding how we can do our food system better.
Yep.
So,
and just a reminder to use your Google login when you go. So if your students can go straight to these pages, but they're going to need their Google login, which is their @education email account.
Thank you. That's very, very true.
Yep.
Otherwise, you won't get in. It is, they've made this available just to us in terms of the New South Wales Department. Please make sure you're doing that. All right. Look, I wanted to show you the tower.
I know, go.
Actually.
We've got 5 minutes and we're going to end with the great Leaning Tower of Pisa.
I'm going to do something. Yeah, I'm going to do something that's a little bit weird. So I'm going to try and join my phone to this Zoom meeting and then show you what it looks like with the tower working, because this is what you need to do with your kids. The kids need to see what's going on in here.
And can they see better with the microscope?
No,
No. Oh,
no, that won't. There's no point
Won't
doing
help. Won't help.
So I'm just give me a second while I do this.
We will.
Do
but
something to
I'm
dance.
doing something to dance. That's like jazz hands while we're waiting.
Sandy's going to do.
All right.
Hand.
But what I am going to do is I'm just going to remind you that you can go and have a look at those videos. As I said, start with Lawrence's and Tanya's, the ones around the technology. But please have a look at Megan's, which is episode 2, because it will just give you a really nice general idea of an approach of how to present it to your students.
All right, I'm going to stop my screen share. Oh, here we go.
Oh my goodness, is that what we look like?
All right, so that's how we look like. Hello, thanks for, this is the studio. Joe, just wave, Joe. There we go, thanks, Joe. All right, so, later.
I feel like the Channel 9 barrel. What should I do?
All right, so when the tower is set up, the water gets pumped into the top of the tower, and it just circulates around and around, and which is why it's so sustainable, because it's not evaporating, it's a closed system. And then when you have a look inside where the plants go, where the plant roots will sit, they'll sit in here.
Can I suggest go around there? Because the
Go
light's
around here.
behind it. Yep, there you go. See, you can
And-
see it clearly.
There we go.
Yeah.
So you can see this is how the plants will get their water, all the way down to here. All right. You have to tell us if this is like a useful thing, right? Anyway, but I've taken the top off, so you do need to keep the top back on. All right. Let's go back to normal.
Yes, I think great camera work.
Thanks.
I think
We've had some great comments actually. There's someone who's using it as part of a kitchen garden scheme. They've
Excellent.
already put in.
yes, I was putting in a request for whatever they're cooking because I go,
Yes, pictures. Like, yeah.
who needs that Stephanie Alexander, you know, that
I do.
cookbook that's that thick.
One thing that we probably need to mention, I know that we've got our tower inside. This is an outdoor growing environment.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Yes, you can get lights. So if a school wanted to buy a system, you could have it indoors. However, you need to have 4 to 6 hours of full sunlight per day.
Yep.
To make sure your plants get lots of good sunlight. Put the towers outside, both of them. Yeah.
And I like the idea of talking to the canteen manager about what sorts of things to grow, getting people involved. In fact, getting the people who might be the end eaters
Right.
to get involved with, well, you know, if we grow 5,000 chives,
Right.
we all love chives. Maybe we do. But
Yeah.
maybe strawberries might be a more popular option.
Go and talk to the canteen manager. Go and
Yep.
talk to who is your final audience, but it's
Maybe-
just so critical.
Maybe it's a charity as well. And there could be, you know, there are many people doing it tough at the moment. So could be taking it off to do some social good as well.
I would absolutely reach out to charities in your area,
Mm.
because if you say to them in 6 weeks' time,
Yeah.
I will have a whole bunch of zucchinis, they may very well appreciate that. And what a great opportunity for students to learn about giving back.
Absolutely. Ah, that's us.
All righty. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Please come and chat with us in the STEM T4L Facebook community or the Yammer community. I will always answer your questions, I promise you. and it's a good way to, give everyone what they need, get planting,
And start sharing
Yeah.
with photos.
with photos.
And it's just a fantastic use of mobile phones for educational purpose, and we all love that. So
Thanks,
it's all good.
Sandy.
Had to put that plug in.
Thanks everyone for joining us, and we look forward to hearing about your aeroponics adventures. Thank you, Joe, for helping with questions. Much appreciated.
And running the back end there. Thank you.
Have a lovely afternoon, everyone.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.